Cooperation between China and Central Asia. Good political relations between China and the Central Asian countries have sound foundations. As early as the 11th century BC, ancient residents of China and Central Asia began to trade. In the 2nd century BC, China and Central Asia established diplomatic relations. The history of the Silk Road was a history of friendly exchange and mutual prosperity between China and the Central Asian countries. The leaders of China and the Central Asian countries take economic and trade cooperation seriously. In April 1994, China's Premier Li Peng declared the following basic principles regarding economic cooperation between China and the Central Asian countries in Almaty, Kazakhstan. 1. Equality and mutual benefits acting according to economic laws. 2. Diversifying the types of cooperation. 3. Proceeding from the actual situation and making full use of local resources. 4. Improving the conditions of communication and transportation, building a new Silk Road. 5. Providing modest economic aid to the Central Asian countries as an expression of friendship, and 6. Developing multilateral economic cooperation, promoting common prosperity. 7. China and the 5 Central Asian countries have separately signed agreements on economic and trade cooperation, protecting investment, banking cooperation, traffic and other areas of cooperation. China and the Central Asian nations have also organized joint, bilateral committees for economic and trade and scientific and technical cooperation among governments. On several occasions, the government of China has also provided the Central Asian countries with loans on favorable terms as well as gratis economic assistance. In addition, there are also hundreds of joint ventures involving China in Central Asia. Trade between China and the Central Asian countries has been expanding by leaps and bounds. In 1992, import and export trade between China and the 5 Central Asian countries totaled $459.35 million. It increased to $872.41 million in 1997 and to over $2.3 billion in 2002. The total volume of trade between China and the 5 Central Asian countries increased to over $8.730 billion in 2005. China is one of the principal trade partners of Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Central Asia is rich in natural resources. The oil, natural gas, and non-ferrous metals of Kazakhstan, the gold and uranium of Uzbekistan, and the oil and natural gas of Turkmenistan are the material foundations of their economic development. There are also quite rich gold and uranium deposits as well as abundant water power resources in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. The strategic location of Central Asia is to a certain extent determined by its rich natural resources and the fact that most of these resources can be exported to the world market. The 5 Central Asian states have worked out very ambitious plans to exploit and export these natural resources. China is a coastal country contiguous to Central Asia. It is possible that China will provide the nations of Central Asia with help because its economy is growing fast and it has a need for new sources of energy. China and the Central Asian states began energy cooperation some time ago. In June and August 1997, the Chinese Oil and Natural Gas Company won international competitive bids, ICB, for the operation of the Aktubinsk oil field of Kazakhstan. In addition, China in September 2004 began the construction of a petroleum pipeline from the western area of Kazakhstan to China, and this project was completed in December 2005. Therefore, the Central Asian states strongly desire to build a new Silk Road. The new Silk Road would extend from East China to Europe and include railways, highways, pipelines, airlines, and energy cables, etc. The new Silk Road would be longer than the ancient route and have greater economic significance. Not only will this improve traffic conditions, but it will also help the Central Asian countries establish extensive economic and trade relations with other Eurasian countries. The government of China and the governments of the 5 Central Asian countries have signed a series of agreements on international rail, highway, and airline transportation. In September 1995, the governments of China and Kazakhstan signed an agreement on using China's seaport at Lianyungang to transit Kazakhstan's goods. 9 By the end of 1997, China had opened 9 land ports for commercial use to Central Asia. In 1999, China built the Nanjiang, South Xinjiang, Railway, which will connect with the railways of Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. The revival of the New Silk Road has been often mentioned in the documents signed by the leaders of China and the Central Asian countries. Now, it has new significance and is becoming a symbol of friendly relationships. The leader of Kyrgyzstan even put forward a tentative idea of diplomacy of the Silk Road. The first step of China's great development of the western area is to build gas pipelines and other transport installations. The New Silk Road has wonderful prospects. From the political and security policies of China toward Central Asia arise new contents along with the development of bilateral relationships and a positive change in the international situation. For the last 10 years or more, China has made concerted efforts with Central Asian countries to bring their relations to a new high. After entering the new century, China has been reiterating to the leaders the importance of the Central Asian countries shaping a new type of cooperative relationship from a strategic level aspect in meetings. In June and December of 2002, China signed with Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan respectively the Friendship Treaty of Good Neighborly Relations. The treaty settled the desire of China and the countries and peoples of Central Asia to sincerely renew and develop their centuries-old friendship in the form of law that became the guiding principles behind the development of friendly Sino-Kyrgyzstan and Sino-Kazakhstan relations in the new century. Statistics show that the trading turnover between China and Central Asian countries was more than $8.7 billion in 2005, which was 18 times higher than the 1992 figure. At the same time, China's investment in the region has exceeded $7 billion. The security policy of China toward Central Asia is based on respect for the independence of those counties. The Chinese side reiterated its adherence to its non-first-use policy to never strike nor threaten to use its nuclear weapons arsenal on Central Asian countries. China and Central Asian countries consider terrorism, separatism, and extremism as severe threats to global security and stability, and will expand bilateral and multilateral cooperation to campaign against these threats. The two sides will, within the bilateral agreed framework, continue to effectively strike against terrorism in all forms and terrorist groups and terrorists recognized by the United Nations, including the East Turkestan force that poses a direct threat to regional security and stability. 21. In terms of politics, Chinese leaders brought forward a policy of keeping good neighborly relations, maintaining safe bordering relations and bringing prosperity to neighbors. This policy was to further develop a strategically bilateral relationship in a long-term and friendly way by signing a series of important legal papers, to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the countries of Central Asia, to enhance mutual understanding and to propel extensive cooperation through regular meetings and friendly contacts in different levels and fields, to support Central Asian countries in choosing the roads suitable for their own conditions in development, and to deal with international and regional affairs through mutual support. In terms of security, China would like to see Central Asia keeping the region stable, which is thought to be in accordance with China's strategic interests. China has pledged to bring security to the Central Asian countries, to ensure peace in the bordering regions, to strengthen cooperation in the field of military security and to strike against the three forces, which include Uyghur separatists in coalition with Central Asian countries, to provide assistance to these countries, to uphold Central Asia to be a non-nuclear region and drug-free region, and to begin cooperation on multilateral levels after enhancing bilateral cooperation between China and Central Asian countries. The Central Asian countries have thought highly of the active and realistic foreign policy that China holds in the region. In the future, China will go on attaching importance to relationships with Central Asian countries as usual. Some of the areas that have remained problematic for the two sides will hopefully be resolved or improved upon. Economic factors will continue to be more important in Chinese policy towards Central Asian countries.